Alright, this video is going to be about a controversial subject. Death. Not in the gruesome way or the somber sense, but a different way of looking at it. I think modern day society has a really unhealthy view on death to the point where it's inhumane. I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way, it's just it should be seen as a celebration, not as should sanctify a place, should have that effect. It's noble. It's the other part of life. There's life and there's death, ultimate duality of nature. And the start of life begins in a dual, an inhale breath, and the end of life, the exhale breath. And everything in between is life. The purpose of this video is not to talk about actual death, but really I'm alluding to death in a metaphysical perspective or context, in the way that the Buddhists think about it. In a word of caution, I don't mean to offend anybody. For the sake of this thought experiment, I think we're all in touch with death more than we like to know. In that sense, every time you go to sleep, you're not aware of anything that's happening in the outside world. And in your dreams, you're not really concerned about who you are. You're just there, moving from one strange story to the next, where the people around you seems to end up changing. But the feeling of the companion or the experience of being with him is really the same. I have dreams when it started with one dude that I was hanging out with, and then it turned into an ex-boyfriend of mine. And then by the time I was starting to wake up, it was somebody else entirely, a different boyfriend, but that they were all the same person. Come to think of it, the thought of me being Si Chen, whatever identity persona I choose to take on in this construct, I don't even question it in the realm of dreams. I'm just purely experiencing it. I think that's kind of purpose to my whole meditation journey, was the exercising of this dynamic quality to consciousness, its dual nature, and that how much of the time we remain in the present moment. And we hear it so often now that it's like, yes, the present moment. It is that, true. But what is it not? Like, what does it mean to not be in the present moment? What does it mean to live in the past and in the future? To me, I had to recognize what it's not in order to see what it actually is. By understanding each part of this duality, I can finally understand or achieve non-duality. It's really the same thing. I think people just like to, people use language to create their own systems and beliefs and communities. And so I find myself kind of straying and talking too much and drawing from different cultures and different modalities of thinking, but time to not be in the present moment, simply when you're just feeling particularly nostalgic on a day, or maybe that you miss somebody, or maybe that you've experienced some bad karma and you wish you would have done things differently in the past. I'll get to it. It's always the pain that creates such a gravity. And then you find yourself looking at pictures, reminiscing on what was. For years, I did that in my own head. My time, long train rides, times where the sadness was about all you can feel, nothing else. On the other hand, right before that, you take on, when you look into the past like that, you reflect to your past. You're looking into the mirror of consciousness, and meditation will bring you there. As hard as you try to stay in the present moment, your mind will not let you because it needs to sort itself out. When you're looking into the past, you're seeing yourself as a player in this story, constructed it within a memory. At some point, when the emotions finally give out, and you look back on it with objectivity, here are the facts. This is what I did, this is what they did. If we both realized what each other didn't, maybe something might have happened differently. The point is, when you're looking into the past and you finally come to see and find peace in what you were missing and what you didn't know at the time, and maybe what that person didn't know at the time, because we simply didn't do this or that. We didn't have this conversation when we were supposed to. We assumed something else that took its place. There's a million ways you can think about all the things that didn't happen that could actually make for a great outcome. So this weird, to me, it's a way of being kind to yourself. That is the truth. What you knew, what you were conscious and unconscious of at the time, and a reflection who you really were. And if you were truly honest with yourself, not things that you didn't know, or would have done differently if you had known, like you do now. So, sort of a skewed way of looking at things, but in reflection, you can understand, again, this dual nature of you, that you were this one person concerned with a whole other, concerned with their future, concerned with doing things and experiencing that and making plans doing that, all the while not understanding all of the things that you were building up that led you to a point that would bring you down. You get to see yourself as the participant, and you get to see yourself as the observer. I think that would make for proper judgment and discernment. I think that is a full circle sort of look into the past, the light cone into the past. And while my mind is still trying to stay in the moment, when I'm healed, I'm not really in a state of content. I can think about, my mind tends to wander into the future when you realize there's only so much that you can control. And then you must focus your attention on the things that are within your control and find acceptance and forgiveness. And you get to start a whole new cycle when you're not really in contemplation, but you are imagining different states or different possibilities. You're preparing yourself to plan, to exert control over the things that are within your control, to direct your future trajectory. And this one's super interesting because, on one hand, when I'm thinking in terms of spirit and will and ambition and proving myself and being part of society again, I think about myself playing this role, this grandiose main character with a purpose and a mission behind everything they do. And you can only hope for perfection and praise and recognition, don't we all? I think this human thing to desire, but in the domain of the soul, I think it's also a type of meditation to create art, right? Or to journal, to sketch, to do whatever you want manifested in the space around you. And that's been the jurisdiction of this whole creative healing therapy, logotherapy, creative manifestation. And a lot of people don't even try to, in fact, it's a big trigger, because what we end up doing is confusing the act of it for what it looks like in the end. The act instead of for its the presentation instead of the content, the how it's presented in front of you versus the why. Right? Why to even do it? I think what many of us miss in trying to understand the why behind creativity or anything that is a true that comes from the heart is that in order to create, you are operating the viewpoint from the perspective of the dead. The dead being you're not an active participant in this. This has nothing to do with you right now. You are just a conduit. This has something to do with maybe who you were in the past, a role you play in the future, but who you are now, to be inspired by, to love whatever it is in front of you, requires you to forget your narrative, get lost in the thing itself, remove yourself from the notion of time or counting time or putting attention to time. And also forget about money. You have to be singularly committed to getting lost in the darkness and to know, to have faith that you will be found in whatever this thing is in front of you. Manifested. You must go into the deepest core of yourself, the root of it all, the beginning of your memories. The experiencing self doesn't actually exist. And that's when you become a black hole. You just absorb and learn and integrate and alchemize by doing what you love. That is the true healing. Creative healing is meant to bring out. I believe that it changes you, your very core. It's the point of singularity, where time no longer exists to you. You go from absorbing everything, the black hole. What's happening here? Sorry, I keep holding off on paying for Zoom, but had to do it. Got cut off there. What was I saying? Why is there a fog? What the? Ignore this. I was saying, when you can get to that level where there is no distinction between yourself and what you're creating, between yourself and your pursuit. And it doesn't even cross your mind, because you know what? It doesn't fucking matter. That is when true belief takes hold of you. The world you knew to exist ceases to exist. When you're so still, unwavering, unconcerned for anything else, everything else seems like it's moving faster too. I mean, not only their tastes or interests or attitudes or demeanor, but how they perceive you is also foreign. It's not in an hostile way, but simply it's not alienating as so much that may be a little alien. You've been made new. The unknown, or the essence of the other, has taken fully over this relationship. And in the mixture can turn into new possibilities. Basically, the interesting thing, the coolest thing about going through this process of alchemy or death is in some strange synchronistic way, it has made you immortal, not in the godlike way, but by that time you have endured or honed so much self-assurance, peace of mind, critical thinking, contemplation. It has built some structure in your mind that you're able to reinforce by understanding how your emotions are formed around this little map of your mind. It's kind of by map of your mind, it's in that very same way, it's the very thing that you created, right? You know exactly where every little piece is and why it's there. And what you were thinking at that time that you placed it there. That is a truth. Only you know. It's sacred. It's true creation. And you should revel in the notion, in the under in the understanding that only you know this. And while everybody else have already formed some sort of narrative, they have already made their judgments, the ones sound enough to put their mind at ease. You've already you've already been gone, far gone. It's like that exploration of two people. One of them is traveling towards a black hole, and the other one is watching them, standing still watching them. And from the perspective of the person who is watching you go into the black hole, as you approach the event horizon, you seem to move slower and slower. And beyond that, you seem to not move at all. To the outside world, it will look like you are doing nothing. When the real work is being done, and the alchemy is being done, it looks like you are staying still and doing nothing to the outside observer. But from your perspective, as you are falling into the black hole, going towards the singularity, you will look back on the outside world, on that world, and you will see it play out faster and faster. All the events that are going to happen, you've already seen them happen. You already know what will happen. You have experienced the happenings over and over again because they are not really changing. Maybe they're moving, but really they are staying still and watching you travel into this black hole. This may sound so strange, but as I am trying to understand what's happening to our world and also trying to make sense of it by doing what is not done. This is reality becomes just as strange as they say it is. In the world of the occult, of this secret knowledge, the only reason it is secret is because it is known only to yourself. When it is known to everybody else, then it becomes culture. And that's where you get the word cult. But in the world of the soul, in your inner world. If you believe it, you will be able to travel higher dimensions and create a new construct of the world based on your work, based on you, and what you've truly alchemized, and not just hold trauma for, not just reliving those traumas and returning it back out into the world in the form of energy. I liken to, like, it's the opposite of entropy. Instead of living to live to the extent where you can't fathom dying, to live because you think that you have no other choice and you must, to live out of fear. Some ways it's so easily corruptible. So yeah, to live because you're in survival mode. You're in survival mode because the world is out to get you. And there's no way to help, and we're all just fighting against each other, or nothing is connected to the next, and no one and everyone has their individual realities, and there is so much pain, no resolution, temporary gains to pass the time with, but in the end, you still can't bear to release not having enough time. If you made it this far, this was me sharing a little bit of my as a hermit, practically laying flat. My artwork is, if I can be honest, it is not true creativity because I'm actually hyper logical. I'm an incredibly practical person who conserves their energy any chance they get. But I knew the benefits. I knew that there were no other ways to go about this healing. And for me, single-minded pursuit works in a aesthetic uh, manner, setting, environment probably works best. My ability to not talk to anybody or not have to be around anyone for a long time is a consequence of my childhood, a symptom of my birthright. It is a shortcoming, actually, that works against my higher purpose in this lifetime. It's a superpower to some extent. But for the same reasons, it might cost me everything if it is all that I am. And I felt no need to change it. Yeah, if you ever thought that, if you ever likened me to The Walking Dead, I agree with you. I don't want to be a complete recluse or, And for all the justifying I do, it doesn't matter how I'm judged, how you judge me, or if you think I'm overcompensating or trying too hard. It don't matter. And the only thing matters is to know that I tried going into the unknown and sharing it with the world, sharing with the world what I found out. It don't matter if you think I'm not living. I've lived. Believe me, I've lived and experienced it a couple times in double speed. Found that I died a few times. The world broken beneath me, or the steps taken from underneath me. Creation, creativity, whatever that means to you, you are actively putting it back together again. You're rebuilding your mind, quite literally. When you share it with the world, you create a new world. Because every person that sees what you've done will end up changing a tiny little bit after seeing that. And in turn, these are whole new characters that are playing the field.